We are now just a few weeks away from the Undisputed rematch, Oleksandr Usyk versus Daniel Dubois 2 at Wembley Stadium. Will it be repeat or will it be revenge? Let's talk about it. But first, I wanted to address why I've been gone for so long, because I have a message to share to whoever may be watching this video. And if you want to skip straight to the boxing talk, that's fine, I completely understand. The timestamp to do so is right here. I have had quite a tough year so far. I was fully intending to be back making videos consistently and going to Fight Week press events and getting interviews and filming content for you all by mid to late April. At that time, I had quite a bad chest infection, which left me bedridden and unable to speak or really do anything for a couple weeks. Luckily, I was better just in time for the Eubank versus Ben fight. What a fight that was, by the way. And if you look back at the walkouts, you can see me being an idiot in the crowd. A couple days after that, though, I woke up with a pain in my right eye. And then I went completely blind in that eye. So after spending a couple weeks getting across to hospitals that I had just completely lost vision in one of my eyes, I was finally admitted to a hospital and diagnosed with a severe case of optic neuritis. This is basically an autoimmune condition where my antibodies, after fighting off my chest infection, then decided to take a swing at my optic nerve, leaving it damaged and swollen. I spent a few days in a ward having to do all sorts of tests, and then being told that it could be connected to multiple sclerosis, and that I may have a higher chance of becoming type 2 diabetic in the future. This was quite scary. So for the last couple months since leaving hospital, I've been on a high dosage of steroids, which has caused me multiple issues with anxiety as a side effect. It's made me highly prone to migraines as well, which would happen every day after the smallest bit of stress, and they trigger with sensitivity to light as well. So leaving the house has not been an option for me. If things couldn't get any worse, me and my girlfriend of 2 years broke up. So I'm at one of the lowest points of my life so far. I'm alone and unable to do anything, really. And the one person who I trusted and could confide in through all of this is no longer in my life. So it's been a tricky few months, but I've been able to get through it by telling myself every day that things will get better. And the one constant in my life, through all the chaos, is that I can almost always look forward to a Saturday night where I can turn on my TV and watch some badass fights. And that is my message to anyone out there going through something big or small. If even one of you is struggling and needs to hear this, things will get better. And if you keep telling yourself that, you'll start believing it. And then you'll be able to take each day with a little bit more optimism and a little bit more motivation. It's very important that during difficult times that you talk to someone and you give yourself a goal or something to look forward to. There's always going to be a reason to stick around or get excited for something in the future. And if you ever feel like that's not the case, talk to someone. For me, I was looking forward to being back here making videos for you all. And now that most of my vision is back, here I am, hopefully consistently. So let's talk about this fight. So this is the rematch of the 2023 fight that had a controversial low blow from Daniel Dubois, leaving Oleksandr Usyk on the ground using his entire 5-minute rest time before he eventually stopped Dubois in the 9th round. After watching this back, you can tell that Daniel Dubois was overwhelmed by the activity and the movement of Oleksandr Usyk. He was able to land power to the body, but due to Usyk's activity stifling his work, he was unable to throw combinations because he was just too cautious. And then as Usyk was landing at will round after round, the culmination of blows eventually became too much for Daniel Dubois, who was stopped by a power jab in the 9th round. Now this fight was Daniel Dubois' first camp with his current coach Don Charles, who has since led him to career best performances against Jarrell Miller, Filip Hrgovic, and then the one that we all saw against Anthony Joshua. We were then meant to see a fight against Joseph Parker this February, but then during fight week, Dubois got sick and the fight couldn't happen. Within that time, Oleksandr Usyk has had those two classic fights against Tyson Fury, showing an absolute technical masterclass on both occasions and remaining undefeated and undisputed until he had to vacate the IBF belt. Now, let's talk about key strengths and weaknesses for these two fighters. I'd say Daniel Dubois' key strengths are his power, his composure. He's got one of the better jabs in the heavyweight division, and his youth. He's only 27 years old. He's about to enter his prime. On the other hand, his weaknesses are his defense and questions about his heart and his chin. In his last couple fights, even if he's won, he's taken a lot of damage. People considered the Filip Hrgovic fight and even the Jarrell Miller fight comeback victories, as he took a lot of damage early on in those fights and had to show a lot of courage and a lot of grit to keep going and get the stoppages in the end. And then even towards the end of that Anthony Joshua fight, he took a massive shot and got wobbled, but luckily due to his composure and his timing, he was able to land the right hand and put AJ away. Then during the Usyk fight and the Joe Joyce fight a few years ago, people were saying that he quit. In the Usyk fight, he took a power jab, took a knee and said no more. And then against Joe Joyce, orbital bone break, took the knee and quit. So a big question for Daniel Dubois is going to be, against Usyk, if he gets overwhelmed again, is he going to give up? Or is he going to keep fighting till the bitter end? Now, on the other hand, for Oleksandr Usyk, his strengths, I would say, are his elite fight IQ. His game plan is tried and tested, and it's never failed him once in his pro career. I'd also say his footwork and his angles are a key strength. He is one of the best movers in the heavyweight division. He is incredibly effective at taking center ring, pushing opponents back, and dominating the footwork and the angles. This will be partly due to his gas tank as well. Oleksandr Usyk is perfect at pacing a fight. His lead hand is constantly active, constantly throwing something to keep the opponents busy, stifling the work of the people he's against, and making them struggle to time anything they're throwing by keeping that lead hand so active. And then there's his mental strength. He's incredibly focused, incredibly composed, he doesn't fight with emotion, and he's highly motivated. The only weaknesses for Oleksandr Usyk at this point are his size. He's small for a heavyweight, but you could also argue that is an advantage, helping him move around the ring and be quick and nimble. But then there is his age. He is 38 years old, he's on the back end of his career, and after doing 24 hard rounds with Tyson Fury, his chin might be affected, his reaction times might be affected, and although he's still quite fast, his speed will be affected. My key questions for Oleksandr Usyk at this stage in his career are, is he going to be able to output at the same rate against a young, primed Daniel Dubois? Because in the Tyson Fury fight, they were both men in their mid-30s having a fight, and at points it showed. But against a young, hungry lion in Daniel Dubois, is he going to be able to do the same thing again? So now let's take a look at them in action. Now right here, you're about to see what I think the key to victory for Dubois is. Combinations and aggression. I think he really needs to go for that early stoppage, because nobody is able to hang with Oleksandr Usyk when it goes past the first half of the fight. In the second half, he turns up the volume and overwhelms you and stops you. So the key to being Oleksandr Usyk, in my opinion, the key to beating him is getting the early stoppage, throwing hell for leather like Dubois is here. And obviously, this is Anthony Joshua who's shot to pieces because he's rocked from the first round knockdown and is not composed whatsoever. But if he manages to do this against Oleksandr Usyk, then I think that's how he wins. Now, if we look at Oleksandr Usyk's last fight, you can see he's keeping that lead hand active constantly, going up and down, throwing a bunch of feints, the left stab to the body, and he'll throw the jab to the body and the left hand over the top here in a second. Right there. Keeping his opponent guessing, pushing him back, keeping Tyson on the back foot constantly, making him overly cautious to throw anything. But changing the angle, getting the left hand over the top. Now Tyson's holding his hand out a little bit there, keeping him away. But Usyk is completely in control, slipping all the jabs. Although Tyson lands a 1-2 as I say that, the commentary curse. But yeah, the key to Usyk's game plan here is going to be landing those left stabs to the body early on, so Daniel Dubois doesn't have the same energy later in the fight. Because Usyk's game plan is all about shifting gears in the latter half of the fight, planting the seeds early with the left body shot and the jab to the body, left hand over the top, keeping them guessing, and then putting in the real work in the latter half of the fight So now let's watch back some highlights of when these two first met in Poland. And again, you can see Oleksandr Usyk's lead hand is extremely active, throwing the jab, feinting. It's what we've seen with Oleksandr Usyk for a lot of his last fights, and it was no different here. But Daniel Dubois was just getting caught by that jab, trying to do what he could, and he just couldn't get many combinations away. That was one of a few that he was able to get away. And then there you go, you see Usyk rock him a little bit there, or stumble him at least. And yeah, this is what it was for the whole fight pretty much. Just Usyk walking him down, being super active. Dubois would throw one, Usyk would throw two, and he was just banking these rounds. You can snap your fingers and you are 3 rounds down against Oleksandr Usyk, as Daniel Dubois is right here. Okay, so it's the beginning of the 5th round here, and right here you're about to see, bam, controversial low blow, with a lot of people on the broadcast and in the crowd saying that it was in fact legal. So the question I have, the big question I have, is this fight, this rematch, is happening at Wembley Stadium. Is Daniel Dubois going to go for that body shot again? And if it lands on the borderline at Wembley Stadium, British crowd, possibly a British referee, will it be illegal this time? That's my question. That's what I want to know. Because if he lands it, and it is a bit low, but it's counted as legal, what happens next? We'll just have to find out. So now, let's predict this rematch. So with everything considered, the questions I have are, will Daniel Dubois throw more volume than last time? How much confidence has he taken from knocking out Anthony Joshua to do that? Will the age difference take more of an effect this time, with a prime Daniel Dubois versus an older Oleksandr Usyk who's just done 24 rounds with Tyson Fury? And will Dubois emphasize those power shots to the body, knowing what they did last time? And if one lands on the borderline again, will it be legal at Wembley? My gut is telling me yes. Daniel Dubois will throw more volume, he'll take a lot of confidence from that Anthony Joshua victory, and he'll be able to throw more combinations, push Oleksandr Usyk back, and go for that stoppage. I think the age difference will have more of an effect, where you'll see Daniel Dubois pushing the paces early on in the rounds, but then we'll see Oleksandr Usyk not as fast as usual, but still Oleksandr Usyk. He will be doing his thing and he will be looking great, but maybe just not as great as it was in the last fight, especially after he's done 24 hard rounds with Fury. And I absolutely think Daniel Dubois will emphasize those body shots. He'll try and get that borderline shot again, hope that it's legal at Wembley, his home turf, his nationality referee, we'll see. However, my gut tells me that Oleksandr Usyk is going to win. I've bet against Oleksandr Usyk way too many times now. I picked Fury to win in both of those fights. I picked Joshua to win the rematch, and I'm not doing it anymore. I think Oleksandr Usyk's gonna win. I just think the boxing IQ, the feints, the angles, the footwork, keeping that lead hand active will still be too much for Daniel Dubois. And although Dubois will land volume this time and maybe even knock him down to the body, I still think Oleksandr Usyk will bank the rounds. He'll land more shots. He'll just land a few more than Daniel Dubois, and he'll nick a unanimous decision and retire a 3-time undisputed champion. So that's my prediction. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. I know I've been gone for a while, but I'm back to work now, and I'm going to try as hard as I can to be consistent and get some media accreditation, to get some interviews done for you guys. Thank you very much for watching.